Good afternoon. I do want to go ahead and get started and be respectful of everyone's time. I am recording this as it is for a grad project for my portfolio for being a media coordinator in the MLIS program at UNCG. This optional professional development is about digital resources that can assist with planning, communication, and curriculum needs. And so what I wanted to do, I'm going to stop sharing so I can include sound. Um, I'm going to share and include the sound this because I am Katie Locke. I'm your BCE Media Coordinator. This session is designed to provide you with support with digital needs. I do have a background in technology. I also have a background in education. And today, one of the things that I want to discuss with you is collaboration. Then we have a tool for Google Translate. I want to show you a couple of tips with two digital libraries. There is a little bit on artificial intelligence, and then there's time for questions and feedback. I am going to ask those of you who attended if I can send you a Google form at the end of this, well, tomorrow, for a little bit of feedback on how this goes. But the first thing is the collaboration opportunities. I am actually more than a special area teacher, and I'm here to support your classroom, and I made a quick video about that.
Created using Powtoon.
So a couple of things to note about the video that I showed you. One is that a lot of people think that media is just a special area class. And the truth is, we do have a curriculum and we do have standards to teach both in media and digital learning. But I am also supposed to take on a facilitative role and make sure that I have resources that support your classroom. And that can be anything from curating a list of books and materials in the media center that align with needs in your classroom, especially if they go with the POI. But I can also tailor lessons to meet your needs. So if your class is learning about lighthouses or the different regions of North Carolina, maybe I could teach the kids to use Adobe Express and they could create their own little videos like what you just saw from me on Powtoon. Powtoon is actually pretty fun. You basically create a slideshow, which you can also do the same thing in Adobe Express, which is on your Launchpad. But You just add the music and you add the little avatars to it, and you can type in whatever you want. Kids really do seem to find projects like this engaging. When you have students doing it, this can take longer than you would expect a project to take. And so that is also where I can tailor to meet your needs, and kids can work on projects like that in the Media Center. I also I just realized I've been talking with my microphone off. I'm so sorry. What I was trying to say was that we do have multiple opportunities for collaboration. And while me attending your PLC meetings can be a challenge, I would like to be able to do more than just see your lesson plans. I can do anything from curating a list of books and materials we have in the Media Center that might help you with having resources for your units of inquiry. But I can also pull resources if you need more reading material to differentiate in your classroom. Speaking of that as well, our online catalog is on the website and can be searched, and parents do have access to block books for children. And so you might be interested in knowing that if you checked out books from our Media Center, we would be able to assist with you having material, especially while you're doing those spreadsheets. I would like to do more than view your lesson plans, though. I would like to be able to collaborate with people on every level, and I can include some of your curriculum needs in media, as well as giving kids time during media to work on projects. That Powtoon, which was a fun video, was pretty much like putting together a slides presentation and then adding music and little icons to it. I can also do that in Adobe Express, and I can teach your kids to do it. If you wanted to collaborate and teach on something together, I do have a few blocks of time that I don't have classes. They may not align with your schedule, and so we might have to be even more creative to figure something out. But it is very much of a priority of mine to make sure that the Media Center is here for you and your students' needs. I am an email away. I've added my phone number onto this slide. You can also text or talk on the phone. If you have a quick question or two when you drop off or pick up your students, I'm also available to answer questions then. It would be nice if this year I could do at least one collaboration with every grade level at BCE. As we move on, if you have any questions, you can unmute or drop something in the chat. And I'm going to keep going because now I want to talk about Google Translate as a tool before we move on to our digital libraries. I often use Google Translate on my phone when I'm trying to talk to students who do not speak English. And I have learned that there is so much more that you can do with Google Translate. I'm going to escape from the slideshow here, and I'm going to open a new tab, and I am going to go to Google, which most Google sites are literally whatyouwant.google.com. And so I'm going to translate.google.com, and that should bring up the Google Translate website. While that buffers, where this becomes really nice is I always thought, how about if I spell Google right? I always thought that Google Translate was pretty much good if I wanted to copy and paste something. If you know what I'm talking about, like I could say, this is a test, and type that in on the left, and on the right, I get in Spanish, because that's the language I've chosen, what it translates to. And the other wonderful piece of this is I know that I lack appropriate pronunciation when it comes to other languages, and there is a listen.
Esta es una prueba.
What I learned later was, instead of me typing a bunch of paragraphs into Google Translate to copy and paste into a document, I can go to Documents, I can browse my files, and I had created a file called This is a Test, but I'm just going to choose something I want. here is, I'm looking for something, test document. So I've got this test document, and basically it's just a Word document that says this is a test inside it. And when I click translate, I can download the translation and I get a whole new document. Now, this is what the original document says. It says this is a test. I'm going to close that out. I'm going to go to Spanish because that's the language I want to translate it to. And I'm going to click translate and download. And when I open this document, now everything is in Spanish and it has created a brand new document, but you can do this with just about any of your files that you have that you need shared. Sorry, that's where I was looking at other documents. The other thing that I wanted to show you was you can open a regular Google Doc. And so now I have this open Google Doc, and what I want to do is translate this whole document into Spanish. I go up to Tools, and then I can go to Translate Document, and I can choose any language that I want. And it creates a whole new document that just says translated copy of whatever your document was, and everything is in the language that you selected. Where this is particularly helpful is when you are writing letters home to families. You can have a copy of it. You do not lose your original, and your original is altered in no way. But when you want to translate a document into something else, all of your formatting and everything stays the way that it was in the original, which is really nice because if you were just using the Google Translate app to copy and paste paragraph by paragraph, you still have to reformat everything. This is almost instantaneous. It has come in handy for me before. I do hope that it is useful to you as you are moving through. I'm trying to go back to my PD slides. That's really all that I have for the Google Translate and uploading a document. I am recording this session, so I will be able to share those steps with you, and those steps will be in this slideshow that I will share with everybody in this week's paw print. So you'll have access to that as well. But using Google Translate to help get documents to families, it also works as a great copy and paste in Parent Square. I know that a lot of parents have it set up to translate to their home language, but not all of them do. So that's where it comes in handy for there. I hope I'm not moving too quickly. The next two apps that I want to talk to you about this afternoon are the digital libraries for Sora and One Access. I know that everybody was really sad when we lost Epic because you could generate assignments in Epic, but Sora does as well have lots of ready-to-use, immediately accessible books. It might mean that you have to revise a lesson plan or two. Every teacher and staff member has Sora on their CMS Launchpad. When you go to the Launchpad and you access Sora, where this comes in handy is with little kids and big kids and kids who don't speak English. I call this button in the top right-hand corner the hamburger. And when I tell kids to click on the hamburger, you can no longer add libraries, but a few things that help to differentiate for instruction and reading access. There is a dyslexic font, which really helps with some families, and not even necessarily families who have dyslexia, but the dyslexic font can be easier for some kids who are struggling to read. Another really nice tool to have with that is the many languages that that are available in the app. If I change the language, it's not just going to bring up books in that language. It is also going to turn, I'll go ahead and do Chinese traditional. It turns everything into Chinese words and letters. So as you're going through it, I think that's the language. As you're going through it, I just turned it in there. You're able to read. When you go to filters, that is where you can select books in different languages. It also comes in handy though, because you have read-along books. If you are teaching in another language, you can actually select read-along books, available titles only, and go to language and change it to Spanish. And these are all of the books that Sora will read. And you can do it from the board. And after you borrow, the other nice thing about it is that it will show you what it's reading.
Come calabazas. Adaptado por Logan Avery. Ilustrado por David Catrow. Pedro come calabazas.
You can speed it up.
Pedro adora comer calabazas.
You can
Las
also
come
slow it
todo el
down.
día.
But I like that it shows the word that it's reading in that moment. Books are available in Sora for 14 days. The other nice thing about that, if you forget to return it, it immediately slides off your shelf when it's due if you don't renew it. If you don't renew it, it returns by itself in 14 days. You do have the option to go down to your shelf and you can return books early. The other nice thing that I like about Sora when you go up to the menu is you have options to set reading goals. Students can set reading goals. Parents can do this with their children. I do have a first grade Sora challenge going on right now. The goal is to get the kids to read 5 books on Sora. And in my first grade classes, we have discussed that there are multiple ways to read a book. You can read with a human, you can read with the computer, you can just read the pictures, but 5 books is not that much. And a lot of kids would be able to knock that out even in one media class, but they get a reward for each book. And the goal is to see what they have checked out and what they can talk about. And they do have a reading log that goes along with that. There has to be something that they liked about the book entered in the reading log in order for them to get credit. I do plan to institute other reading challenges. There will be one with every grade level this year. I'm testing the waters with first grade right now. The next platform that I want to show you is One Access. And One Access is very nice because it has way more than Sora does. I mean, we're talking way more than books. Sora has audiobooks. It has books that they can read to themselves. There are graphic novels in there too. I had some second graders going crazy over Dogman this afternoon. But when you go to One Access and you click on this Research and Learn, all of these blue resources are paid for by either the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library or Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. And where that matters is there is stuff like, well, where this matters for adults, you've got Resume Builder for anybody who is trying to bulk up their resume and make it look better. This Resume Builder is free. There's Scholastic Go. The one thing that is not taken off of this website that our students do not have access to is Hoopla. And that has to do with the parents' right to know and their lack of control over what's accessed. But as a CMS staff member, you have access to all of these resources as well. I use Libby and Hoopla like it's going out of business. I listen to audiobooks in the car. I have downloaded more than 60 books off of Libby and read them this year from January to now. I've way surpassed my goal for the year of reading, but because of my residential status, I don't have the same access to as many library materials as Charlotte Mecklenburg Library provides to our students. And when I talked to the DLLS office about it, they said take advantage of everything, it's already paid for. If you want a Wall Street Journal account and you go through One Access and you sign in with your student or staff ID number, you can read Wall Street Journal. This Libby by Overdrive teen collection and kids collection, the digital magazines, kids love this stuff. The other thing to keep in mind if you are doing research projects with students and you have the kids scroll to the bottom and go to World Book Encyclopedia, you would be amazed at the resources in there. This is where I want to talk about logging in. Everybody's login is capital C, capital M, capital S. And then teachers and staff, it's going to be your state ID number that you can access through Lawson. It's what people use to sign in on NC EdCloud. For students, it's going to be their student ID number. But when you log in, and that is case sensitive, it does need to be capital C, capital M, capital S. There are all of these resources for students. The World Book ebooks are actually ebooks of information. There are a lot about animals in here and science, but there's also military. These are all nonfiction books. We've got biographies in here. The kids love these, but if you go to student grades 5+, and I even have the 3rd and 4th graders do this. This is an online encyclopedia. If I type in just a place, and it does have to be spelled correctly. You can see there is a microphone if it's enabled. These are articles. This is all the information that World Book Encyclopedia is pulling about Charlotte, North Carolina. If I click on this Charlotte FC article, you can change the voice of the speaker to have different dialects. You can change the speed as well if it's reading too slow or too fast. And what I like about that is that definitely helps with differentiation. You do have settings. Kids can log in and they can change text size. You can teach them how to highlight. They can change the font. Again, that really helps some of those struggling readers. But what is important to note is that it has to be that capital C, capital M, capital S, and their student ID number. This was actually one resource that I taught some kids last year, and then they had to do something in Adobe Express based on what they had learned. And so we got kids making commercials for sports teams. There's also images, and it gave me the great opportunity to teach kids the difference. But our goal is to try to get as many kids to sign into at least one access resource a month. And I have been trying to do that for the littles. When it comes to one access, I'm still in World Book here. I need to go back. But my favorite thing to do with the little kids under research and learn, I actually just have them go to Tumble Books. They love the Tumble Book Library. The neat thing about the Tumble Book Library is there are also different levels of things. When you've got kids who don't have the patience to search for a new book every time, these are playlists. And if I click on one book, this is a whole fairy tales retold, and it's 3 stories. Once Upon a Breath, the 3 Billy Goats, or the 3 Silly Billies, and then Bully Goat Grimm. This is a 29-minute playlist that reads books to the kids. The older kids really started getting into the puzzles and games. And there are memory games in here. There are sentence games. There are Spanish games, which is really fun. The other thing that's really nice about this Tumble Book Library is It is also in multiple languages. You can do some language learning activities, and that can be fun to do when you have a transition. There are lots of different world languages. The kids get really excited over the fact that there's a graphic novel section. These are always available. They do not have to check them out. The one thing I will say about Tumble Books, though, is that it does not save their place. So if they're reading Geronimo Stilton and they get to page 27, they have to remember that they were on page 27 before they get to the next section. At this point, I just want to go back to the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library and show you again all of these different options that you have. There's the local news, the Charlotte Observer, the Charlotte Post. The Comics Plus is like a comic book section that you can get the kids to. Culturegrams is another one that's really cool. It will show you all kinds of little tidbits around the world. And if you go into the kids edition and you explore, so you can choose areas of the world. Like if I click on Africa, now I have a map of Africa that has all of the countries and regions. And then if I want to read, like say American Samoa, which is part of Africa, there's all of this information on my screen, but it's like a little gram. It's just a few stats and facts so that it's not super overwhelming. It's also really neat to look at these more features like the photo gallery and the video gallery. You can really get lost in the information that comes from one access. The children are making sure that they can log into it this week, but there are so many different things to look at that could help with resources. I know that our campus is bigger. Those of you who signed in later, when it came to the collaboration piece on this, I am more than willing to curate lists of materials that people need. I am more than willing to teach your kids how to use One Access and Sora to their advantages. I really just need information from you so that we can collaborate and listen. That is the other piece of this that I forgot about. There is on Culturegrams a play button that will actually read what is on the
Territory
page.
of American Samoa. One of the traditional symbols of American Samoa is the fway, coconut fiber fly whisk, crossed with a tutu.
So it's reading this information, the caption that's underneath the seal. The only thing that I don't like about Culturegrams versus the Sora and the Tumble Books read alouds is that you don't see the words as it's reading. And I do think that that is an amazing tool for kids of pretty much any age as they're reading. The last piece that I wanted to talk to you about has to do with artificial intelligence. And I don't know if teachers are aware of this, but Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools does have an AI policy when it comes to whether or not students can use artificial intelligence. What I enjoy doing with kids is I will get Gemini, not really Gemini, I'll do a Google search. If you ask Google a question, it is sort of a trip to get around Google Gemini being blocked. But I will ask Google a question and I'll get an answer. And a lot of kids are ready to accept that that is just the correct information. What they don't know is that the majority of what Google pulls comes from Wikipedia, which we all know can be questionable material because it can be updated. It can be a great resource. It can also teach kids about validating their sources. So when you're using AI, one of the things that really teaches kids about accuracy and cutting corners, you can generate something and then have your students evaluate the quality and the honesty that comes from it. Where you need to be careful with AI is we don't want kids entering too much personal information about themselves, because one of the reasons that AI works and gets better and better and better is because it stores everything that it learns as it's piecing things together. And we don't want kids giving up private information that they don't know what it's coming from. I have no idea if Google Draw will work, but if you use Google Draw to create an image, even though it's saved to your account, Google does still store information and shapes in the way that you put things together. So you have to be careful when you're using something like that. There's one more AI resource before we wrap up, and I see if you have any questions, and it is, my sharing bar is in the way, a resource called Schemely. And CMS has not blocked Schemely. It is an AI lesson plan generator. Now, if you don't want to pay for Schemely, I would highly suggest that you get everybody on your team to sign up, because you get a free lesson plan per month. And when you get that free lesson plan, it does more than just generate what you're supposed to do. It will create handouts. It will create Kahoot. It will create Blookits that you can then do with your kids. Do you still need to evaluate what is going on with that? Absolutely. But when we were looking at some of what Schemely could do in one of my classes, I'm going to switch over to, because I know that I already have an account with Schemely on my UNCG profile. But when I go to Schemely, and it will save what you have. And so when I was looking up stuff to work with kids last year and I was learning what I could do, I just typed in natural disasters, and it will ask you for some basic information. You're looking for grade levels. They want to know where you pull your standards from. You wind up getting this lesson plan that you can share with your team. You can edit it with AI. This is a PowerPoint slideshow that it generated on natural disasters based on the information that I gave it last year. And now that is emailed to me. There are YouTube videos. You can create a Quizlet. But basically, you've got all of this information put in. I know that Kahoot is a little bit of a frustration for us. You can explore what's already created. When you want an AI lesson plan generated for you, you get a free one a month. But sometimes you can throw a lot of objectives in there. And so you get a lesson that you would spend a week or two teaching to get through it. As promised, at the end of this, I'm going to ask those of you who attended if I could send you tomorrow a short Google form to get some feedback on this. I am also going to share the transcript. So if you would like to, sort of speed through the transcript to get to one part or something else, you'll have access to that. And I'm going to update the slideshow to have the steps to get to everything. Does anybody have any questions or needs before we wrap up? And if you don't, thank you so much for joining this afternoon. I really appreciate it. If you do, I still appreciate it.
Miss Locke, I do, want to say I think you did a very good job. And I hate that more people weren't able to join, because there are definitely a lot of people who have the questions of resources and sometimes supports when we're in planning of things that we may have access to as a school. So I'll definitely, make sure that some people know the things that you shared and how you're able to help support the POI and all things like with units and stuff.
Well, and even that coming up in a PLC meeting to have somebody check in with me, I would love that, because the biggest responsibility that I am supposed to have in this role is collaboration, and due to schedules and needs and meeting times, I can't attend your meetings, but that doesn't mean that I cannot make time for you, and I will.
Yes, good. Someone today just asked how can parents access Sora, but I did hear you say that One Access has a lot more resources than Sora. So I'll circle back to it was Miss Haygood and I talking. But maybe I'm sure you may have shared with the teachers, but just sharing things like that, maybe in an email. It was a
Yes.
first grade parent that wanted to know how could they access their password for Sora, I feel like.
Yes. And so the easiest thing to do is if we can get the teachers to send their ClassLink quick cards home. And I know that Miss Wagner has them in her home reading logs. The reason that there's so much excitement about that is because I did drop the Sora Reading Challenge, where they are going to get a reward, up to 5 rewards for books read. But that's all I have for everybody today. And I do promise to share what was created here. And yes, in planning meetings, if there are resources that you need help with, collaboration for me, or even just to work together so that what they're working on in class, they can also work on during time with me, because that would be the best use. I want to tailor what I do to meet the needs of your kids.
Thank you so much.
Have a great afternoon, everybody. I'm going to stop recording now.